Greetings from Buckingham Palace. I'm just walking around at the front of Buckingham Palace, and it's quite surprising to see a lot of tourists around here because I haven't been into the city for over a year now, considering that I used to work in the most part of my career in the city of London, so it feels weird actually to be back after such a gap. But I came here last year, and this was just after one of the lockdowns, I think, that happened, probably the first one, when it was lifted back in June or July of last year, and there was hardly anyone here. No one was really travelling, and it was just eerie to see the city of London itself quiet, because London's not like that. London's one of the busiest cities of the world. It attracts the world's tourists here. Nationalities from all over the world come here. You hear a variety of languages spoken here. You don't really see many local Londonians, if that's a word, Londonians. It's mainly tourists that come here, and I think it's tourists that make it. And it's just interesting and nice to see a lot of people here. Still not as many as what you would find peak season, but we are heading towards the winter now, and there are still some restrictions that happen because of vaccines and PCR testing and similar sorts of things. But it's interesting to see people out. I wasn't expecting this many people here to be here today around St James's Park and the Buckingham Palace area. I just came from Piccadilly Circus, and that place was packed, which it normally is, because Piccadilly Circus and Leicester Square are quite close to each other, and it's on the tourist trail. A lot of tourists will go to Piccadilly Circus because that is similar to maybe say Times Square of New York, and Leicester Square. Leicester Square, Piccadilly Circus is comparable to Times Square. Same sort of shops out there that are overpriced. So I would say go there, but don't spend your money there. There's lots of better places to shop at and spend your money. But just looking around here at Buckingham Palace, just looking at people here, you can hear, I can hear some people speaking Spanish here. And it's quite interesting to see different languages spoken, different dialects, people out there taking their photos and their selfies. It's quite interesting to see. Quite nice to see actually, because it's after such a time that I've seen this sort of scene in London. I visited it twice after the first lockdown, and it was so quiet that I went back home. It wasn't really worth staying out. It's probably worth getting some Instagrammable photos when that sort of situation appears, but apart from that, it's not really my sort of scene to come to somewhere where it was quiet. I think it's the tourists that make it. And looking at it today, lots of tourists here, particularly in front of Buckingham Palace. Not so many away from the palace. Normally you'd find a lot more tourists at St James's Park as well, but not that many there. Not a lot of people walking within the park itself, but on the Mall itself it's quite busy. You can see a lot of people walking towards that way, and it's quite lively. I think a lot of people head that way towards Piccadilly Circus as well. You can get to Trafalgar Square as well, not too far from here. But it's just nice to see people out and about, enjoying themselves on bicycles. Very, 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 very pleasing to the eye, I think. I think I was going to ruin someone's photo there, because I was going to head off that way, and but luckily they got their photo taken. I don't want to ruin someone's selfies, considering that the amount of selfies that I had when I was in Pakistan. But just looking around here, it's quite lively today. It is a Saturday. It is a Saturday around about 2 p.m. It's a bit dark today and dull. The rain's held off because if it rains here, it's bad. It is awful when it rains. Then you've got to find those places that sell umbrellas for a very extortionate price. Just show you the Buckingham Palace. Right, it was behind me there. Just see it there, the statue of Queen Victoria there. Just heading off towards the Mall. the Mall, which leads up to, if ever you watch the London Marathon normally comes from that direction and finishes about here, because I ran that in 2008 and we finished roughly about here somewhere. So if ever anyone is doing the marathon or has done it before, this place, for those who have done it, will be recognisable. For those that haven't done it, this is where the finish is. This is where the finish line is. This is where they give you your medal and your silver foil blanket, and you'll get to see that if you take part in the marathon. And I know that a lot of marathons have been put off for quite a while. Got a lot of friends that are into their running, and they've been quite depressed for a while that they can't run in the marathons, but by all accounts the marathons are back, and by all accounts, looking at the number of people here today, just looking at them, you would say that the coronavirus has disappeared as well. It's actually looking at the numbers now, especially down the Mall, I would say that it's almost back to the levels that it would be back in a normal year. Probably a bit less, but it's close to normal, I'd say, for this time of year. In the summer, this place is rammed, it's packed. You won't even get any space at St James's Park, which is across the street here, to sit down. That's normally there's normally sun loungers and deck chairs there, so finding space there is a bit difficult. But for the time of year, I think it's there's a number, you know, a great number of tourists I think now here. The brave, I think, are out here, because those that are still afraid of travelling will say don't travel, the virus is there. But I think people have got to get on with their lives, I think, and make use of their time. And if they travel, then so be it. I've travelled in COVID time, so I'm not going to lecture anyone for travelling. You can hear, just hear the language. You can hear people talking and hear the languages. You don't really hear English being spoken. So these are tourists here, because in fact locals, there aren't any areas around here where locals can live, especially near the Mall. You've got to go further into the so probably the Piccadilly side, which I'll go into as I'm walking. That's where you find flats and apartments, people living, but not in this area. So by and large, you will find just tourists here, or people like me who vlog. I remember, actually, I used to work not too far from here, and this used to be my lunchtime walk. I used to do a lap or two of this area, and this was my daily routine from Monday to Friday. The amount of miles I must have covered whilst walking around here must have been in a crazy level. Good for training, good for those who count steps. That's the latest fashion, with these watches that calculate the number of steps that you're doing. So I think if you're into your walking, I think this area definitely, because the tube stations are quite far. If you are where I am now, the closest tube station is about a 15-minute walk, I would say, and that's if you're walking fast. One of the great things about London is that you will find a lot of things that are hidden, not on main roads, because London was never a planned city. It was never designed by an architect and just built. Like I can think of in England, say Milton Keynes is one. In Pakistan recently, where was Islamabad. In India, Chandigarh would be one. So they're planned cities, they are designed. London has grown organically, and so you will find a lot of places where there are hidden restaurants, hidden cafes. You would even find hidden museums, believe it or not. There are so many museums in London, in the city of London itself, that you could go and explore. People only go to the ones that are famous: the Natural History Museum, the Science Museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum, by and large, the British Museum maybe, and that's pretty much all they go to. But a lot of the ones that you will find are hidden, and I'll probably do a vlog on that sometime as well. The different museums of England, the lesser known museums of England. because some of them are actually quite interesting, and they will be a lot easier to get into, especially during peak season, than the main ones that I've mentioned, because some of the main ones I've been to, I've taken family and friends at times, and it's been a nightmare in those, just because of the numbers in there. I know that a lot of them now do ticketing as well, so that you can get certain times and you're guaranteed at that time, but just looking at them, they're very, very busy, and they are very hectic once inside, and there are a lot of other museums around within the city itself that I think are worth exploring. Now, I've just walked to from one end of St James's Park to the other in the hope, and all I was trying to do, the only reason I came to this side was if I could capture Big Ben in scaffolding, but I think I'm just a bit too far from this, and I don't actually want to walk that way either, because if I do walk that way, it's a pain getting back, because I've got to go to Piccadilly Circus. I've got to head towards that way, but trust me, it's still in scaffolding. Don't come and see it, or if you do want to see it, see it. I'm not saying don't see it, but you're not going to get that same experience that you would, or you're not going to get the same Instagram photos or the Facebook photos, you know, or the whatever it is that you're into, because I've run out of choices there. WhatsApp it to your friends. I would say avoid that, because you're not going to get the best photo. That area itself, actually, I say is nice. That whole Westminster area, it's actually quite open. They've got Westminster Cathedral there. It's just down that area. 10 Downing Street is not too far. Parliament Square area, whole of it is actually quite a nice wide area. Not much there in terms of like fast food places or places to eat if you're in a hurry, so I wouldn't advise eating there. I'd advise visiting there, but I'd advise getting food and coffee elsewhere, because it's not an area that's synonymous for that sort of thing. So just walking, just exited the St James's Park, and I don't think any traffic's allowed it. Actually, traffic might be allowed here today, but generally I've known this road to be quite lively, and there are cars coming, and there is actually a war memorial here as well that I'll show you. So this is a war memorial, and it actually says this memorial also commemorates all those members of the household division who died in the Second World War and in the service of their country since 1918. So both world wars, from the household division, this monument's been put up. You know, I give respect to anyone that's fought in a world war. It takes guts to fight in a war. A lot of people, you know, give it all the talk, but you know, stick them on the battlefield and you find out what they're like. So big respect to those that have fought in wars and lived them and died at them, because it is a commendable act to be able to do that. So just walking past St James's Park, and not that many tourists on this end actually. It was busier towards Buckingham Palace, but towards the bottom end of St James's Park, it's quiet. And as you head out that way, you will actually go on to, you can actually go towards Parliament from there. You go towards 10 Downing Street from there. I don't really want to do that. I might do that in another vlog actually. Years ago actually, you could actually walk in front of 10 Downing Street, but now that's gated from both sides anyway, and there's a lot of police there. Those days are gone. You won't be getting those days back, but you could. Years ago you could. Probably when I was in school, I think, because I think one of the classes actually did a trip there, and they had photos in front of 10 Downing Street. So how times change. Back then you could actually walk in front of the Prime Minister's residence. Now Boris is there. Yeah, but having said that, Boris, to be honest, the Prime Minister, is out and about. And I remember once meeting him in India, of all places. I was in a place, Lodi Gardens, and Boris Johnson, who was the foreign minister at the time, he was there. And I just looked at him and said, "You look, it's Boris Johnson." And to be fair, he had a chat for quite a while as well, for about half an hour. And he was quite interesting character. He is an interesting character, to be honest. I'm not sure we'll get another Prime Minister like him again. Who knows if he will be fighting in the next general election. If I was him, I'd probably look to step down after his term has ended and let someone else stand. But you know, Boris is Boris. He's a surprising individual. I don't think even he knows what he's going to do. So just walking up towards Piccadilly Circus, actually. Piccadilly Circus is this way. So bottom end of St James's Park, walking up. I remember doing a lot of runs up and down these steps here. In the summer, you find a lot of people doing exercise here. A lot of people sitting here with their sandwiches at lunchtime and their pasta dishes and whatever else that they want to eat. This monument here is the Duke of York. It's quite a tall monument as well. I'm not sure the size of that, but it says on it, Frederick Duke of York, hang on, that's not 19. Frederick Duke of York, 1763 to 1827. Second son of George III, Commander-in-Chief of the British Army, 1795 to 1809 and 1811 to 1827. So George III was the British king who lost America. So America was it was a colony of the British, and George III was the one who lost it. By all accounts, he was a bit daft as well. He wasn't all there, from what I've read. Another interesting statue here somewhere as well. Just trying to find it. There was one associated with India as well, if I could find it. It is there somewhere. Oh, here it is. I have to cross these. If you have a look here, look at this, dangerous. The kind of things that you have to do, cross these dangerous wires. So just looking across here, there's one that I've noticed. Let me see, here it is. I knew it was here somewhere, but yeah, so you've got here the statue of John First Lord Lawrence, ruler of the Punjab during the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857, Viceroy of India from 1864 to 1869, erected by his fellow subjects, British and Indian, AD 1882. John First Lord Lawrence. So John Lawrence, basically, when you want to say his name, is John Lawrence. So that's his statue. So he was during the Indian Mutiny of 57, the first mutiny, the first War of Independence, as they call it, in India. It's his statue there. But there's a lot of things that you find as you're walking down different areas of London. There's another statue here, Robert Scott, Captain of the Royal Navy. So Robert Scott is quite a famous individual. Died 1912, returning from the South Pole. It's something that you learn about in history lessons in England. So yes, Robert Scott. So just entering the Pall Mall area. For those of you who play Monopoly, Pall Mall will be, known to you. It's one of the, I think it's one of the more expensive places. I haven't played Monopoly in years, but that's where we are, in Pall Mall. You can see Pall Mall SW1. And London is busy. I've got to say, London is busy. London is heaving today, I think. So as I'm heading towards the more touristy part of the city, it's getting busier. It's It's certainly livelier in these parts anyway. I wonder what the lesser known parts, lesser visited parts of London would be like. But we'll try and get to those as well. There's a few places that I want to get back to in the city that I haven't seen for a while. I want to go and eat in the Bangladeshi quarters of Brick Lane, not too far from Whitechapel, where Jack the Ripper murdered all those women. But the cuisine there now is fantastic. I've got to head back there. I've got to eat some food there. There's a few famous restaurants there. But as I head towards Piccadilly Circus, the Christmas lights are on. They're gearing up towards Christmas and celebrate this. Actually, London's quite nice when it's Christmas time. There's lots happening. Lots of activities happen here. Skating parks. Hamleys always has something going on. There's a lot more activity, but like I said, the activity only happens when people are here, tourists are here. When tourists are not here, this place is empty. And then it's not the city, actually. It's not what makes it. That's why I wonder what, I would actually wonder what New York is like, what it was like during the lockdowns and after they lifted their lockdown. Because America weren't allowing in tourists for quite a while. And it's only recently that ban's been lifted. So a trip to New York is on the cards, I think. But here, just looking at it, the lights are on. It's actually quite nice. It's nice seeing all this, seeing the sights of London, because it's one of the world's top cities, I feel. I've been to a lot of cities around the world, and every day that I was here, whilst I was working here, you find something new, you learn something different. And what I do like about London is it caters for different areas. If you're into the monarchy and the royalty, it caters for that. Then there's the working class England. Then there's the financial district of England. There's different areas out here, I think, that cater for different people. And I think if whatever your interest is, you'll find something here. The East End of London is different to the West End of London. The South is different, the North is different. All areas of London are different. The central part of it has its own charm. But I think a lot of the outer areas tend to have a lot more. You find people that live there. And you get to know more about them, and the food there is different. The cuisine changes. Here you find a lot of chains, not a lot of independence, I've got to say. A lot more chains here, especially now as I'm heading towards Piccadilly Circus and the Leicester Square area. Oxford Circus is, if I carry on walking down here, it'll be to my left. But that's quite a touristy area. It's getting busier here, and I've actually got to catch the underground and head back. So as I would head here, that's more towards the theatre district this way, more towards the Shaftesbury Avenue area where the theatres are. A lot of film shootings actually happen here in this spot here. I've seen a number of films here that have been filmed around this area, because Piccadilly Circus, they tend to use this sign and have it in a lot of their footage. So yeah, Shaftesbury Avenue is down this way and Leicester Square is that way. And just as I'm turning now, I've got to head off and make my way to my next destination. Until then, ciao.